Hey, it's ItzZeph, and welcome back to the planet of legend in Dwarf Fortress. So, after I had witnessed the direct kneecapping of one of my dwarfs from the rich folk, I stole all of their armor and clothing and sold it to the caravan. But not before asking for dwarven armor, weapons, bolts, and some farming goods for next year. After this, I noticed that Zugalaros, our crippled militia commander, had no job. So, as some twisted thought I had come up with, I decided to give them even more jobs they couldn't even do because they were crippled. And don't you worry, this is the session when I actually figure out that multiple jobs on one dwarf is a bad thing. Anyway, after that I finished construction on the smithing extension, fixed up the sandy floors, and had our first visitor to the tavern. I also realized that a key was spotted stealing a book. Remember this and the date for later. So I next checked up on our human visitor, Kiki. It seems they were enjoying the table arrangement. At this point, I noticed the key had started fighting with a visiting merchant, and by the looks of it, was just constantly scratching the scalp off the merchant. This was hilarious, obviously. But when I went to go see where this was happening, I couldn't find them. I didn't see them, so I thought nothing of it. I then tried to work out how levers worked and realized that they had to be on the same level, or either that, or I needed some mechanisms. Either way, I wanted the lever out of the hall, so asked for it to be disassembled so I could place the flooring. This is when I looked back and saw that the key was still scratching the dwarven merchant, and noticed that they were fighting atop a tree, which was even funnier. After that was when I saw the surface level trading area was being dug out, and then I saw that one of the dwarves that had died earlier in the battle between the undead had risen from the grave as a ghost. I then noticed that the key had finally passed out due to exhaustion after scratching the top of a merchant's head for 32 days straight. Now I can only imagine the state atop the dwarf's dome, but I was glad it was finally over for them. Hopefully, he had some way to get some hair up there. Now that the surface trade area was basically dug out, I placed the new depot, and shortly after queued up some lavish and fine meals to hopefully help with the maddened dwarves. I also asked for the area to be smoothed and to make the area more, presentable. This is where I thought, after looking down near the river, that maybe making my dwarves walk all the way down the mountain to get water wasn't the best idea. So I started work on what would become our true water source and well, and made a trench that would later be filled with water. And here it is. This is it. This is when I finally looked it up and fixed the multiple job issue I was forcing myself to deal with. Look at that. So much better. Hopefully your blood isn't boiling. Anyway, after extending the kitchen and fixing that huge issue, I added the workbenches to the kitchen and started work on an extension to the dwarven quarters, because I most certainly did not have 33 beds. Speaking of more dwarves, a little later, we got our first petition, which I don't really know what the best thing to do with them is. So, whenever I get migrant requests, I literally accept all of them. Next, I linked the hatches above the beehives to the lever that was placed, and started prettying up the tavern even further, fixing the floors and designing designs into the floor. The waterway was coming along well when all of a sudden 13 more dwarves showed up. Which isn't a bad thing, I just wasn't expecting the idea of the tavern to be this affected. At least I think that is why we're getting all these dwarves, but I could be completely wrong, maybe it's some other reason. So, with a bunch of dwarves comes a bunch of possibilities, including guilds. So, I planned out the guild hall area just above the colorful Onion Tavern, assigned more bedrooms, and after the guild halls were dug out, I assigned them halls that were popular among the dwarves, with the first one being a ranger hall. The trench, at this point, was finally being fully dug out, so I looked where it would be appropriate to place a well, and dug out an area underneath. The tavern was coming along nicely, so I placed more tables, made the guild halls smoother, and then noticed our first great work, which was a statue of a local dwarf. It was offered up to the Curled Coal, which I have no idea what that is or why we offered it up to them. Maybe that's the name of my dwarves or something, like the guild, or I have no idea. If someone can tell me about that in the comments, please do. After that was done, the well was finally placed, and I was pretty happy. It was operational. After that, I was doing some finishing touches to the tavern when our next caravan was arriving, and I asked for wood, anvils, bolts, and instruments to furnish the tavern for next year. I then got some polished stones and some food to be brought to the depot. But while that was being delivered, I worked on the tavern even more. Now, I know I just said I put finishing touches on the tavern, but to be honest, the tavern is never finished. Zugalaros, our past militia commander, had, without me knowing, disappeared. So after seeing that the spot was empty, I assigned a new commander, and also a medical dwarf, for an eventual hospital. Next, after furnishing some cabinets in the bedrooms, the barracks and the archery area was planned and dug out. And finally, after all the prep time, it was time to release the water. I opened up the waterway and watched as it flowed down the trench, and also decided to build a small bridge so that the dwarves could cross over it. While it flowed, I worked on detailing the guild halls and assigned a tavern keep and a performer. I then checked on the well and watched as it became operational. A historic moment for the now village of Nishlas Trades Guild. Gone are the days of walking down a mountain to get a wee drink. Next, though, I decided to extend the mines, extend the bedrooms, and extend the barracks. Then, while I was perusing the new minerals and ore we were mining up, that is when we struck it. A cavern had been opened up by our dwarves, one filled with water and shrooms. Would this lead our fortress to doom? I did not know. But I did know how to protect us, by walling it off completely, just in case. This, though, is where I'm going to end it for today. Who knows what untold horrors await us next. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Know that you matter, and things can and will get better. It might take time, but it will be good in the end. I love you guys, and I'll see you.